We've been really, really proud on O'Connor tonight to draw a lot of attention to the independent docuseries from Independent Women's Forum. It's called Identity Crisis. It focuses on multiple angles and facets of the transgender issue from the perspective of the women involved, from the moms, from the doctors, and yes, from the young women who have walked down that path and then changed their mind about their transition. And the latest episode is important. Take a look.
I could not have wrapped my head around what it would be like for them to cut my incisions back open and manually drain blood clots from my chest cavity until I lived through that, until I was on that hospital bed having it happen to me. At the time, I thought I was gonna die. The womb was getting infected and no one seemed to really care. I think that nobody will understand the complications that come with these procedures and these treatments until you experience them.
The Identity Crisis series is the brainchild of Kelsey Buller. She's the creator of these great documentaries, and she joins us now. Kelsey, thank you again for joining us.
Thank you, Larry.
That's Soren. Tell us a little bit about Soren. And by the way, thank you for showing the vivid reality of what is just sort of euphemistically referred to as top surgery. Oh, it's top surgery. it's no big deal. This is harrowing.
Absolutely. Yeah, these are very graphic images that caught my attention when Soren initially posted a bit about her transition and detransition process on Twitter. And I thought it was one more aspect of this gender ideology movement that has been underreported. You know, it's not fun to look at these photos from a very vulnerable young girl who went through this experience. She started cros-sex hormones at 17 and got so-called top surgery shortly thereafter and experienced very severe complications. Doctors on multiple occasions dismissed her concerns despite her sending them photos of the side effects that she was experiencing, which you just saw. And they wrote her off. She ended up taking herself to the ER a couple days later because she knew she was getting gaslit. And from there, it wasn't long that she decided to medically and socially detransition. She realized the lie she was living in. She realized that these professionals affirming this gender identity was not actually addressing the underlying causes of her distress. Mm-hmm. What I love about Soren's story, I'm very grateful for the way you have featured the different detransitioners that whose stories we've told at Independent Women's Forum. Soren's in a different mental place than some of these other detransitioners we've featured. She is embarking on a healing process where she really values mindfulness, and she's learning to accept the physical reality that she has to live with. And she's perhaps a little bit farther along in that journey than some of the other detransitioners that we featured. And I think that really grants us an interesting window and perspective into her looking back at her experience, although she's just 21 years old. She turned 21 the other day.
Wow. And also, I think that there's also some insight here. We keep hearing this same statement over and over again, that the chemical transition, whether it's testosterone or puberty blockers, what have you, it's temporary, it's reversible. And there's some aspects here of Soren physically right now that seem like it's irreversible, that there's been some changes to her body through the chemical process that won't ever go back.
Right. It's not just the surgery that caused irreversible damage to her body. She is still suffering from pretty severe side effects of the cros-sex hormones. Yeah. She talks about this in the video. It's only 10 minutes. I really encourage everybody to watch and share it. Yeah. Because we have to understand that when we talk about this issue, we're coming at it from a place of compassion and concern for these vulnerable children who are pushed down this path to medicalize natural insecurities that they face. This is not about politics. This is about protecting children. Right. And we know for good reason, European nations have completely reversed course, severely restricted minors' access to so-called gender affirming care. And yet we have medical professionals here in the United States, and politicians moving in the exact opposite direction.
Thank you for bringing up the medical professionals, because that's a through line in a lot of these episodes, Kelsey, and I appreciate the way you present these stories, because we do have compassion and concern for the individuals who are affected by this ideology, the parents certainly who are emotionally blackmailed into affirming this, otherwise their child will kill themselves. I mean, what else are you supposed to do? But the doctors, especially when the doctors hear from these young women, wait, I've changed my, wait, I'm having complications, wait, this is harming me, wait, I'm in pain. They just shut it down. They shut it down. And is it because they have bought into the ideology that there cannot be any dissent? Or is it actually even more base and crass than that? Is because, well, there's no money in detransitioning?
Right. It's hard to have any sympathy for the medical and mental health professionals involved in this medical scandal. Certainly, there's an entire gender industry built into the idea of children and teens and adolescents transitioning. People's livelihoods, quite frankly, depend on it at this point. I do believe many of them think they're doing the right thing. But it's really curious why very few of them follow up with their patients. All of the detransitioners I've interviewed decided to medically detransition on their own and tell me they felt medically abandoned by the very providers that sent them down this path. So if they really do believe their heart is in the right place for these children and teens, why aren't they there on the other side? Why are they medically abandoned once they stop these cross-sex hormones and left alone to figure out the repercussions that they now will face possibly for a lifetime to come?
Kelsey, I'd love for you to address one other issue here. The New York Times is doing their best to minimize the work you're doing with Identity Crisis, with this series. Let's take a look at their headline they just published. How a few stories of regret fuel the push to restrict gender transition care. A few stories of regret. I mean, you've produced many, many episodes of this documentary. You're not running out of subject matter, are you?
Absolutely not. I wish there were 100 more of me producing these videos, because there are thousands and thousands of more stories that deserve to be told. We can only tell so many at once. It is unfortunate to see the New York Times attack detransitioners who are very brave, mind you, for speaking out and telling their stories and advocating against so-called gender affirming care. They face very targeted harassments and threats for simply telling their stories. And this is how our media treats them, by really smearing them as if they don't deserve a voice in this debate, or their voice is outside. Well, every single one of these detransitioners, every single one of these young women I've interviewed has told me the only reason they're speaking out is to be a voice for so many other detransitioners who they know don't have the ability to do that, whether that's because they mentally are still in so much distress they can't handle the targeted harassment that they will face, or they're just not in a comfortable and safe place to do that. These detransitioner voices are so important, and it's unfortunate to see the New York Times minimize and dismiss them.
Yeah, erase them, frankly, and demean them, and suggest that their voice doesn't matter because they're so
But it
few.
does show that their voices are being heard. They can no longer be ignored. I'm actually encouraged by that.
Oh, look at you, always looking on the sunny side. Well, listen, I think here we are in May. This is the 7th month of our program. You were with us the first month we went on the air in October. And for regular viewers, they probably noticed you going through your own transition here. Is the baby due any minute now?
Yes, any minute we'll be welcoming baby number 3 in the Buller household. So you might not see me for a little bit while I take a break, but for the best reason.
All right. Well, in the meantime, we will keep ourselves occupied by watching the great series that you've put together. It's, again, called Identity Crisis, and these stories have to be told. They have to be shared. You're still on YouTube, right? They haven't deleted you yet?
We are still there.
Excellent.
Knock on wood.
Thank you, Kelsey, and have a great birth.
Thank you.
There's more to come. Keep it here. And please do click on Identity Crisis. Go watch it. Go to Independent Women's Forum to watch it too, because all of the episodes are loaded up there as well. And the most important thing you can do is share these stories. Share them on your Facebook. Share them on your social media, because the word has to get out. Trust me, the New York Times, they're getting nervous. That's a good thing. There's more to come on O'Connor Tonight.